name is Maddie Brooks, and I work with, not for, credential advisors. I have been in this business for 30 plus years. I started when I was 12. Don't make me laugh. My role at Banks Fair, which was my first employer, was to be a trader advisor on the wealth management desk. We had a global client base, pretty affluent people. Then I decided to stay home for 5 years because I missed being a mom. So I stayed home with my boys. One of them is a dad. I did go back to work after being mommy and being the whole soccer mom thing and driving him and his basketball friend around with their nasty sneakers. Yeah. And now I'm at Credential Advisors. I'm a manager of financial services, and I believe that my purpose from God is to coach and mentor the new advisors that are on my team.
That's nice. That's nice. I don't think I could beat that at all.
Sure you can.
I'm just joking, right? So first and foremost, for those who don't know me, my name is Geraldine Mayhew. Some people call me Jerry. I prefer Jerry. It's much shorter. So I have been in the industry for 20 years. I started at the age of 1. We'll leave it just at that. Don't laugh. And so for me, I have a 15-year-old daughter. I tried to get her here. She looked at me and put the pillow right back over her head. She was like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me. But I've been in the financial industry for quite some time. It's probably, 21 years. I currently manage an office with about 100 financial advisors. No 2 days are alike. I've got 13 of them that are international advisors. So they're constantly traveling overseas to meet with their clients. And to your point is, our goal here for me is really to help others, but also help children understand what money means to them and how do they have a great relationship with money versus just spending it.
That's awesome.
All right.
No, he's got it, because don't let him fool you.
I will spend less time on myself, so I'll be really quick with my intro. So my name is Tyrone Ross, 2002 graduate here at Seton Hall, former track athlete. My former coach is in the audience there, Coach Dean. I am currently managing partner of my own firm called Noble Bridgewell Partners. I want to spend the majority of my introduction saying this. The two women to my left, I will start with Geraldine. When I was at Merrill Lynch, she was there. This is just a year ago. Geraldine, when I was at Merrill Lynch, was someone that I could lean on who I knew was like me. She was very instrumental to my success there. So prior to her leaving, she was actually, I'm sure you remember the story, but
yeah.
So quick story, I had a very racist encounter with the branch manager that were in our office. And I didn't really want to be there anymore or whatever, and I never forget it. I was on my way into the office when I got the email that they announced that Geraldine was going to be our new branch manager. And I was hoping the whole time. And I walked into the office and saw her, and I cut up in front of the whole office. But so I say that to say that it's rare to find good people in the business that we're in, and it's also very rare to find intelligent, powerful black women. So I don't take that for granted, and Geraldine exemplifies that. Cool story about Maddie. Me and Maddie met, we have I guess a virtual internet relationship until today. But really cool thing about Maddie is exactly what she said, and I'm gonna prove it. I mentor at a program in Newark called NJ Leap. And it's for young students who get after-school programming through Seton Hall Law School. And there was a young lady there that I've been in touch with. She just graduated school. She said that she reached out, the director of the program reached out and said that she wanted to get into our business. And she was actually going through the process of going through the Merrill training program. And I had a conversation with her, and I was like, I'm not gonna go into my experience there, but I definitely think I have someone you should talk to. And I referred her to Maddie. The cool thing about that is, rare is the case where you can share a contact with a young woman of color wanting to become a financial advisor and refer her to, right, a doyen in our industry, right? Someone who has been around and their sole purpose is to mentor young women and young men, period, getting into the business. So I wanted to make this less about me and just to get across to you guys how important, the people are to me, to my left, and what they mean to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'd like to start the first question to the panel being, we have some very young people here, and we have some older.
Seasoned.
Yes.
Seasoned people here. What I'd like to know is, if you're in the seasoned side and you haven't begun saving, and you think you might outlive your money, what steps would you take? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, how do you start the young ones on the right path so that they don't get to be seasoned and have a question that I just presented as that?
Want to go? Yeah, sure.
Let's start with the season part, because I happen to be one of those individuals. The first thing I'll say is I have a lot of men and women that come into my office and they ask that very question. And I always say, it's never too late to do something. It may sound cliche-ish, but it's really not. Procrastination and fear are the two biggest derailers for retirement planning. And I'm sure my panelists will agree. So the first thing you should do, if that's you're one of those people, is to find someone who is a professional that you can speak to about your present situation. That's starting with ground zero. This whole financial journey is not an easy one for people that don't do what we do. There's a lot of intricacies, there's a lot of tax codes, there's a lot of things that no one expects you to know on your own. So what I would say is to start by, if you know someone who has an advisor, we ask for referrals to doctors or hair salons, primarily. Why not a financial? If you know someone who you're working with, or you have a friend or a family member who has someone that they're working with, reach out and just ask for an appointment. The other thing I hear is, oh, I don't have a lot of money. Have you heard that?
Oh,
Jerry?
constantly,
Okay.
constantly, yep.
Most advisors will meet with you for no cost in the initial consultation. So if somebody's giving you something for nothing, take advantage of it. Why would you? As for the little ones, there's no stronger teacher than leading by example. And I'm loving the fact that these two handsome young men in the room, let's give them a round.
Well, I guess I have to answer both. So I guess my answer would be a little bit nuanced and behavioral. So I guess I'll start with the younger and get older. And one of the things that I try and do in this business is relate my experience. And the reason why I was 26 years old before I knew anything about money is because I wasn't taught about money. We didn't have any, but wasn't taught anything about it. So the antithesis of that is including your kids in that when they're young, right? Because if the lights are off, if you get evicted, if the car is repossessed, the kids experience that as well with lack of explanation. I've been there. So it's simply including the kids in every single financial piece of information that is important to you and them. Because, and I've been blessed enough to have this conversation with my mother, a very strong woman. She did everything she could to keep things from my sister and I, but if the lights are off, at some point there's some comeuppance, because the kids are gonna ask, right? So what I would say is, and again, I speak to young kids a lot, it's simply including them in understanding, open a bill, This is what a bill is. See this? This is what we owe. I'm going to write a check, if people still do that, right? All of these different things, and this is what it looks like, right? Take them to the bank. This is a checking account. This is the difference between a checking and a savings. Like all of these things, the same thing that we do to take time to take them to soccer and gymnastics and to church. I said it. And all these other things, right? And include them in that. And I think as they grow and as we start to look at other communities around us, they do that with their children, which is why they're so far ahead of us, because we don't include it. Which leads me to the other end of the seasoned folks. At some point, there has to be, and I want to be very clear, all issues with money is behavioral. Yeah. It's a behavior. If you don't save, that's a behavior. If you're a spendthrift, that's a behavior, right? So money is behavior. It's emotional. We have an emotional tie to money. So the first question I ask people when I meet with them is, what is your relationship with money? First thing that comes to when you hear money, what comes to mind? Is it scarcity? Is it abundance? Is it bills? Is it your mortgage? Is it a vacation? Your relationship with money is going to determine what you should do next, right? And I think the one thing that if you've gotten later in life and you haven't started to save, that is clearly indicative of the fact that that's not something that was a preference for you. So you have to kind of be honest with yourself and start to track it, right? I always say, grab a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. Everything that comes in the house, less everything that goes out, right? If you have a number at the bottom on this side, you're doing all right. You got a little discretionary income. If you got a number on the other side, something's wrong. And just kind of reassess where you're spending. So I think one of the things that is hard for people to understand, and I had a mentor who told me this. He said, Tyrone, it will never be about how much you make. It'll be about how much you save. Easy to say, not easy to do. And when he said it, I used to get my checks and spend all the money. But that's a whole other story. It took me a long time to learn. So I think just getting in the mirror and just being honest with ourselves and saying, okay, well, at any stage, this is why I'm not saving, and then just create a habit. And technology now allows that. Responsibility allows that to just start, because again, as Maddie said, no matter where you are, you can pick up the pace. It just means if you waited later, you got to be a lot more stringent about how you do it, because you have to make up for that. And I don't think I have to tell I don't know how many of you are actually from this area, but if you're from Maryland to Connecticut, it's expensive.
Of course.
Right? It's very expensive to live in this area of the country, so it's not like you need that education. Just look at what you spend on life. Right? And I think as long as you do that, you'll be able to be honest with yourself about where you actually spend your money. And, last point I'll say is this. I always say, give me the last 3 months of your checking account. I don't need to know nothing about you. I don't need to know where you're from. I don't need to know how much money you make. I don't need to know how big your family is or how many family members you have. I'll know everything. Where you spend, how much you spend it, how often you go there, what times you go there. So, If we can do that as advisors, you can do that for yourself, right? Lock the door, get 3 months, and look at it, and be honest with yourself.
It's painful, isn't it? Yeah. It's probably things that we don't want to hear. So I'll piggyback on what both of them said. One of the things that we don't also do is pay ourselves first, right? There's a concept of making sure that if you're getting a paycheck, the first person you should pay is yourself. And you should have an account that is so far away that it takes a lot for you to get to. And I'm saying that because I have that, right? I opened an account with Oppenheimer. Every single time I get paid, my money goes automatically $500,000. $500,000, I wish. $500 goes to, yeah.
She don't wish.
You know what? Did you?
That's alligator. Alligator.
Did you hear? You said that's alligator. That's full alligator for me. So part and parcel
Crocodile.
is, even if it's $5, it's $10, it's $20, the mere fact that you get comfortable with paying yourself first means that your relationship with money changes. If it was negative, it becomes positive. And you're building it, right? So I'll give you an example. If you saved $5 a day for 5 years, you would have accumulated $9,300 and $1,300. Once again, I will say it again. If you save $5 a day, I'm going to go there too. I'm going to go there, right? $5 a day for 5 years will yield you $9,130. 5 years, right? So when I say open an account and put money there, don't think about it, just do it. I look at sometimes in our community, our relationship with money is not necessarily positive. We look at it, to your point and to your point, as if it's scarce, right? But if you change your mindset and you focus on, hey, I want abundance as opposed to lack thereof, your mindset itself will help you build that wealth, right? Everybody who built wealth didn't build wealth just by the sake of it. They did something that ensured that they put money away so that it continues to grow. So that is critically important, right? For our community, for our children. I was sharing with you earlier, right? I've got a 15-year-old. I opened an account for my 15-year-old at PNC, and it's a virtual wallet. So there's a certain amount you can spend and there's a certain amount you can't spend. Well, she thought it was an open book. And so she's just like, I'm going Starbucks. Somebody said Starbucks. She loves Starbucks. She's like hanging out with her friends. She's like, well, I'm hungry. I'm going to call Uber. Uber is her personal driver to bring food home, right? So I was like, well, wait a minute. Here's your budget now, right? If you expend all of that money, guess what? You have nothing left for the week. You decide how you want to do it. You have to, right? Oftentimes we're so afraid to be really tough with our kids as it relates to money, either because we didn't grow up with money and we want them to be comfortable with money, but if we give them bad habits, they'll never get out of it. So it is our responsibility to make sure, especially the boys that are here, right? The kids that are here, that we are setting the right precedent. We don't need, ladies, we don't need those shoes. We don't. You don't need those clothes. I guarantee you, if I went to any one of your closets, you have plenty of clothes in the closet and plenty of shoes in the closet. You are hiding yourself right there, right? So understand that those shoes are not going to make you wealthy. Those clothes are not going to make you wealthy.
What about this bag you got? Is that
What did you say?
nothing?
What did he say?
I said, what about this bag you got?
Well, first of all, it's full. No. Let me clear the record here. First of all, I got this at Banana Republic for $20. Thank you very much. So I'm a bargain shopper. Ask Tyrone where'd he get his suit. Yeah, go ahead.
What advice would you give to folks who are looking to learn to invest?
Yeah, it depends. It
And
depends.
we're talking,
Yeah.
maybe starting small, because we're changing our mindset.
Yeah.
We're starting to try to create good muscle memory for ourselves and for our children.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to pay ourselves first, but we're also looking to try to create some generational wealth, and leave a legacy.
So, do you want to start or not?
Go ahead, Crocodile.
How much you pay for that suit? But I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, so sitting down with her and she goes, you know what I did with my children? I made each one of them pick a stock that they liked. Each one of them pick a stock that they liked. And she basically said she didn't give them any advice. She didn't give them any directions. Pick what you like. She said her son picked a stock that was extremely complicated that he didn't understand. Her daughter picked a stock that she liked because she liked that company. And it was one of the, what's one of those stores where they love to shop? Forever 21. So she picked Forever 21 as her stock. And over time, she said she just stood back and let them determine how they're going to manage that money. Are they going to add more money to it, or are they going to take money out of it? Because if you start doing it for them, you're not really teaching them on how to build it. But if you give them the example of them trying it on their own, then their relationship with money becomes positive. So that, once she said that, I started for my daughter. I said, what is your favorite store that you spend a lot of money in? Buy the stock of that particular store. So now you're an owner, but also a person who wants to purchase goods from that store. So that's one of the examples that I share with some of the kids when I speak to kids is pay yourself first. Be comfortable paying yourself first. So that's all.
That is a very broad question. So one of the, I approached that a couple of ways. when someone asks that question, I ask them if they have a job. And if you have, no, here's why. If you have a job, that means you have benefits. If you have benefits, more than likely you have a 401k, you have a 403b, you have a pension. So you're already an investor. You're just not taking full advantage of that. So one of the things that I first do with people is try, especially my younger clients, and the majority of my client base is younger, let's maximize your benefits at work. Make the most of what you have at work, and then from there we'll take the next step. For example, I had the opportunity when I was at Merrill to go speak at Wyndham. Wyndham has probably the best 401k in the country. The CEO stood in front of the room and spoke about his new cottage in Maine and all this other stuff, and how he was leaving, but he wanted to address everybody before he left. He's a multi-millionaire. Before walking into the room, the HR director said to me that of all the people in the company, 50% of the people did not put money in the 401k. We hear that a lot. It's a shocking stat. That's not my point. The point is this, and I always put this on my younger clients. One of the first things I say is, you work for a Fortune 500 company or a public company, is, can you get the stock in your 401k? Do they let you accumulate it? If so, do so. One of the things that we don't do is accumulate equity. Equity equals the generational wealth as you discussed, right? So whether you get that equity through going through the market yourself or through your job, so if you work at a public company, you should have access to that stock one way or the other, whether through bonus or options, or if you can get it through your 401k. So that's the one thing that I say in terms of starting to invest. The other side of that is if you are truly ready to start investing, right? Whatever, right, investing is, based on where you are, your age, risk tolerance, all these things that we have to go through. The number one thing that you should start to do to invest is pay down your debt. If you have debt, pay down your debt. Now, I've had arguments with people whether you could pay down debt and save simultaneously and all this Dave Ramsey garbage, right? But the truth is, if you're paying 23% interest on credit cards and you're behind on your student loans and all these other things, if you can bring that balance down as low as possible, that's the greatest investment you'll ever make. Get back to zero, and then you'll realize you create a trigger. So now you remember those payments. Remember that $500 a month you was paying on student loans, or $500 a month you was paying on credit cards. Now you'll direct that money into an investment that's paying you going in as opposed to going out. But again, it's a very nuanced question, but that's the barbell approach that I take when I'm initially starting with people and they say I'm ready to invest, because it's a very broad question.
Quick question. When you said young, can you talk about what young is? What's the word age?
Well, my clients are very young. So my youngest client is probably 23 now, and I think my oldest client is like 55, and he's the only one, right? After him, there's a drop off to like 40, 45, but that's on purpose. That's purposeful, right? It's not that I exclude anybody. I'll work with anyone, but that was purposeful for me because I realized when I was at Merrill and not being on my own, I came across a lot of folks like myself who had no advice or guidance. There was nothing for us. Yeah. Right? And then I realized, I'm like, well, we won't even get to be 55 with money if nobody teaches us about money at 25, right? So there's enough really smart people who are good at retirement and financial planning. To be honest, I don't like that stuff. I don't want to sit and go over pie charts and all that. That's not my thing. So I was like, you know what, where can I be of most service? And that's, scaling down a bit. But, the one, my oldest client is he's my chiropractor. So, I got to keep him.
Just in case.
Just in case, you never know. He might break my neck.
My thought on young people and investing is, and the funny thing is, Jerry, last week I had a young lady call me with that very question. She said, Maddie, I saw you speak at, I don't know, I think it was a women's empowerment seminar in Newark that I did. And she said, my daughter's 21, and I want to start investing. how do I do that? Can you help me with that? And to Tyrone's point, I'm a little leery about making that recommendation until I find out where they are. So I started asking her some questions about her finances and whether or not her daughter had a job so that she can invest through a stock option plan or 401k. And she said, I talked to her about all that, but I really want her to get into the market. Stock market is not your enemy, but at the same time, have you addressed things like student loans, things like credit card debt? So the way we left it is, I said, I think a good next step for us would be for you and your daughter, because she was trying to initiate the accounts for her daughter. And that's not going to help her daughter long term, because if mom is the one who's putting the money in the account and investing, how is she going to learn how to deal with money? So the way we left it is both of them are going to come to my office in a couple of weeks, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how they both feel about money and what have they done and what does money mean to them. My first appointments, most of the time, has nothing to do with finances. Nothing. It's all about where are you? What are your thoughts? So I'm a little leery about, unless the young people have an individual who understands how the market works, I really don't recommend that they start just jumping into some type of investment portfolio. Does that make sense?
Yes. Jerry, did you want to add?
No. I think that they both covered it very well. Yeah.
See, I think the other issue with the mic like this, we can't really like drop the mic when we make it. I'm sorry.
You could. It's just gonna break.
I'll
But you
just
could.
push it off. I'm sorry. I'll just knock it down.
City perspective, so that younger people don't get hold of a lump sum of money and it's so strange on the way. Any advice on how those folks could set themselves up to help their relatives be more responsible?
Again, I'll be very brief. Straight basics, right? One of the things that we always leave each other when we leave Earth is debt, right? You need to create an estate. You need to buy life insurance.
That's right. That's right.
Buying life insurance creates an estate. You don't need whole life. You don't need no complicated policy. You need straight term. But that's a whole nother story. But get life insurance. The other thing is you need a will. You need a power of attorney. You need an advance directive or medical directive, whatever you smart people are calling it this week. Because if you can't be you, who can be you? And then if you are in the hospital laid up, are we to draw down all of your assets to save you alive, to keep you alive? Or can we spend it down and go to Carabana, right? Go on a trip. So one of the things, again, I keep it very simple. You need an accountant. You need a financial advisor to help you with all the things I just said, and you need a trust and estate attorney to create those documents. That's it. That is your financial triumvirate. If you don't have any of those, you're leaving a big gap. You're going to work, leaving yourself exposed, right? You're leaving yourself exposed. You need life insurance. You need a very good accountant, not the tax preparer who does it in church after Sunday service. You need an accountant, a CPA, right? Not your auntie who went, took a couple accounting classes and now she got a salon. No, a CPA. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I always tell clients that. Are you up to date on your taxes, right? You need an accountant, you need a financial advisor, you need a trust and estate attorney. To leaving your family either debt or not knowing what to do. And this is great. We can leave, everyone can leave here and you could be millionaires in 6 months. But if you don't do everything to protect that, what good is it? It doesn't make any sense. So you have to start, right? You build a house starting with the foundation. The foundation is a simple living will. It's simple term insurance. If you're young, get term.
Yep.
A lot of term, because you'll never be as young as you are today. Get a lot of term. It's cheap. If you meet the man or woman in your dreams and you want to add on whole life, great,
Yeah.
right? Make them pay for it. But that's a big piece of it. Again, the accountant will handle your taxes, and the financial advisor, you simply go to, and I always tell people, we're last in that chain, and I don't have any problem with admitting it, right? We are last. Go see an accountant, go see a trust and estate attorney, come to us last. And then the three of us will work together to make sure that you are okay. Which goes back to the bigger issue here is that we don't even know. I talk to people all the time. If you needed a criminal attorney, you don't know where to get an attorney. If you need a divorce, right? We got a network. We have to build to let people know. So if you're starting with your accountant and you have an accountant, accountants are the most connected people on earth. They know anybody and everybody because they're doing any and everybody's taxes. So if you need a financial advisor or a trust and estate attorney, they'll be able to direct you there. But I think those are the things that you need to do right away to protect yourself and then your family in the event of your demise. God forbid.
God forbid. So the only thing I would add to that in particular is when you're building that will, right? We all think that we should leave everything to all of our kids, and that is not necessarily the case. So when you're
I mean,
he said neither.
I should get it, not my sister. But.
He said he should get it, not his sister. But so if you really think about it, there are some kids that are more responsible than other kids, right? But oftentimes as parents, we want every child to be equal, and every child will never be equal. So hypothetically is, as Tyrone talked about, creating your will, be mindful of how you're creating your will and who you are leaving the money for. Or you can get someone else, like an attorney, to direct the money accordingly on the terms that you want that money to be divided, right? So maybe they can't take it all, but they can take a certain portion at a certain period in time. And so those things are really important because for us, we will create a will, we'll get someone to sign it, and then we'll take it and put it in the safe. Yep. But we never take it back out to understand the things that I have in there, is it still applicable?
Yep.
And you have to make sure that it's still applicable because things may change. Laws may change, right? The attorney that you had may change. So you have to look at it. I look at my will at least once a year to make sure there's anything that I need to add or take out of it, right? And it could be, I have one child. I've already ordained that if something happens to my husband and I, my daughter goes with my brother and his family. So you have to also say, if something, we could be on a trip and something happens and we both die, you don't create that will, what happens to your kids and who's going to watch them, right? So all of those things that we take for granted, that we think that we're gonna wake up each and every day, we've gotta be mindful. I think for us as a community, we oftentimes take it, it's always late, as opposed to doing it early, right? So make sure you definitely have a will. Make sure you know what your directives are. If something happens to you and you need to go to the hospital, is it get rid of the life support because I don't need it? Your will should have everything that defines what you want when something happens to you that your children can just execute. So that's what I would add.
Okay.
Not that I was on a somber tone.
We're going to be here for a while.
That's why we went first.
Unlike Tyrone, most of my clients are 50 and older. Okay, thank you very much. So,
we need y'all. We need.
Hi, Ruby. A couple of things. How many of us have children in college? Does anybody have any in college? Okay, great. If something happens to your daughter or son, do you have a directive signed by your daughter or son that would give you the right to make decisions on behalf of that young person?
I do.
Good. A lot of us don't have that.
Yep.
And here's the reality. As a parent, especially if you're paying for their tuition, you would think that that right would go automatically to the parent. It does not. Okay? So these are a couple of things that don't get addressed in our community more so than others. And even though it has nothing to do with the question, I just wanted to put that out because it's important. It's very important. It's also the same thing with a guardian, like Jerry just said. Something happens to her and her husband. Her son is the guardian.
Oh, it's a daughter. I don't have a
I'm
son.
sorry.
That's
I'm
all right.
sorry. I'm surrounded by.
I thought- I was like-
No, you're right,
I was gonna
because you're right, 'cause next time she looks at her will, she put me in. You jumped the gun. But yeah, absolutely right.
That's
Got a son
another-
now.
You're-
500,000. Definitely got a son.
There should be a legal guardian appointed for your minor children. Okay?
Yep.
Now, as far as the seasoned people in the room, when you have assets, and here's what happens a lot, people in their 50s or higher do a good job of accumulating while they're working. Right? So most of us, and most of the people that I meet on a daily basis, they have a 401k, you know, they're putting money into it. If they have a pension, they have that. They might have some type of investment account. They might have a little life insurance, you know, from their job. And that's all great. But the question is, when you pass, the people that you're leaving the money to, do you want to drop, you know, $200,000 into the lap of a 30-something male or female who is not fiscally responsible? No. Sorry, no, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
So to Tyrone's point, you have to have that group of professionals. I call them the triumvirate. You need those three folks. You need your financial advisor, you need your attorney, you need your accountant. Now, my experience is a little bit different than Tyrone's because most people that come to me, they don't have an attorney. I have to tell them to get one, or I have to refer them to somebody. Okay? Most people do have an accountant, thank God. And it should be a CPA. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a reason why that person has that credential behind their name. The most important loophole that I find in my experience, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, is what happens not if I die, but if I become chronically ill.
Yeah.
Passive
Yeah.
video.
How do we fund that? Okay? And I'm not talking about you have to go into a nursing home, because that's Medicare, Medicaid, that's a different conversation. What I'm talking about is, if I walk out of this room and I trip and fall, and I can't walk or drive myself indefinitely, where is the money going to come from? And what I find is that a lot of people who are in that situation, they go to the retirement plan.
Yep.
That asset was not deemed for chronic care. Most people that live 65 or older, there's a 75% chance that you're going to need some type of chronic care assistance. And that cost, additional cost, is $250,000 over your lifespan. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about this, and it needs to be addressed. So people will say to me, Maddie, well, what do I do? How do I fix that? Well, there's really only one of two ways. Actually, there's three ways. You can go to your retirement and just blow that plan up, right? You've been working for decades. If you're healthy enough, you can purchase a long-term care policy, hopefully, we'll see. And that'll give you some leeway. Or you can try to purchase some type of life insurance that has a rider attached to it. But when I tell people, I'm like, you can't just dismiss this. It's too important. If I have a client with a $500,000 portfolio, you know, oh, this is great. I got plenty of money to live the rest of my life. No, you don't. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you do not. But the good news is there are ways to address the challenge. And as far as protecting your wealth, I'm with Tyrone and Jerry 100%. In your will, make sure that your attorney, your trustee, if you have an estate plan, is the person that's driving the ship when it comes to distribution of those assets. And oh, by the way, in the meantime, hook them up with Tyrones and they don't know what to do with it when they get the money. Amen, somebody.
Amen. Amen.
Is there an offering plate? I'll
I'm
take
gonna
it off.
get off my soapbox now. Let's
Consecration. Tithes and consecration. So really quickly to that point, for the next question, and this reminds me because I'm living it with my dad who just retired, and another piece of that. One quick point, 401ks or retirement accounts, Trump or will. So if you get divorced and you don't got old boy or old girl, you didn't remove them from your 401k, they're still entitled to that.
That's right.
So make sure you are up to date on all of your beneficiaries,
Absolutely.
right? That's very important, right? So eventually, if I get married, my wife is going to be very upset that my niece is on all of my stuff, but she's going to have to get off. Next point, Social Security, which is not my bag, but I'm only going through it now because I'm fighting with my father for this. If you can, delay it.
That's right.
Delay taking it. For every year that you delay, it is an 8% accrual on your money. If you can delay it, delay it. If, big if. And my father can, but he's not going to because all of the guys that he retired with are telling him to take it. Right? I'm looking at him, I'm like, I do this for a living. You just as bright as I am, and I'm telling you, your light-skinned son is saying, delay it. But he won't delay it. But that's how entrenched it is. Which leads me to another point, which is very important. I don't know why, but the statistics bear this out. When you present people with facts that proves that they are wrong, they become more entrenched in their beliefs. They will not believe you, even in the face of evidence. Trump supporters. But my point is this. You have to be very careful, especially in our profession, when we are giving people hardcore evidence about their finances in their life, because they're going to say, well, my mama, my cousin, I did it, somebody, my coworker, they're not you. You don't know your whole coworker situation. So with that said, if you can, and it's so true, and the people at the Social Security office are useless. They don't get it. They're just there to get a check every 2 weeks. They will give you bad advice. They gave my father really bad advice. So just be mindful. If you can delay Social Security, delay it for as long as you can. That is a built-in annuity that the government is giving you that it took from our generation, but whatever. It's a built-in annuity that's there. Make use of that.
The only thing go ahead.
People are afraid to die and not collect, and this is a fear with our culture about my period. So how do you begin to dispel the fear based upon what you said? If you believe, you're getting fast, but you don't believe that. You read it in the newspaper.
Maddie is probably more equipped to answer that question, but I'll just tell you really quickly what I told my dad, because that's exactly what I'm dealing with. He's like, I earned it, I want it now.
Or people think it's not going to be there.
Well, see, that's the other.
Right. So
And that's a reality.
Maddie could address that, but I think for me, and like I said, it's personal for having a conversation with my dad. I'm trying to get him to understand that, and just to be transparent here, is there's a couple things to look at, right? The longevity of your family, and then also how your other assets away. My dad doesn't have much assets away outside of his pension, so you have to make the most of this, his personal situation.
Yes.
So you don't want to gobble it all up now, right? You have me and other people to fill in the hole there because you don't have it, so you can't afford to, right? But I think the thing is, it all depends on your assets away. But again, switching the mindset is if you don't have the assets, you would be more inclined to delay it, right? But your mindset is, I need it now because I don't have the assets, right? So trying to get somebody to change that is tough. I don't know what Maddie does, but I don't come across that often, but I'm dealing with it personally, and I'm losing the battle, I'm not gonna lie. But I think it's one of the things that's just constantly embedded in him, that it's better for him longer term because you don't have 500,000 sitting in the account. And I guess he's like, I got you, fool. So I don't know. But.
Well, that's, okay, so that's definitely my sweet spot, because a lot of people that I sit down with, there's two big fears for most of my client base. It's, will I outlive my money? And who's gonna take care of me if I become chronically ill? That's question number 1 and 2, 90% of the time, with the people that I sit down with. This Social Security myth that it's not going to be there, I will never guarantee you anything because I like having an active license, so I'm not going to sit up here and guarantee anything, but what I will tell you is this. What probably will happen with Social Security is that they will continue to increase the age of full retirement. That's the fund's way of staying intact and not becoming defunct. And if you notice, it's slowly creeping higher and higher, right? It used to be full retirement age of 65, then it went to 66. Now, unfortunately, for the young people in the room, it's 67.
60 never. We ain't seeing that.
So I believe that it'll be there because just imagine if you turned on the TV tomorrow morning and the headline said, Social Security is defunct and nobody's getting it.
It will be a super.
There will be riots and shoots, okay? So I don't see the United States government ever going down that path. And that's the first myth, because I do get that question a lot, that we talk about when someone comes into my office at 62 and says, I'm going to take it tomorrow.
But they did make some adjustments, because if you think about it, before, someone who was married 3 times, as long as their wives were married with them at least 10 years or more, right?
Yes.
And didn't remarry, would benefit from her husband's Social Security even though she was no longer married to him. So if you think about what's his name, Carson. Johnny Carson was the big example.
Johnny Carson.
Yeah, so he was married 3 times. All 3 wives never married over again. They all benefited from his Social Security, but it does not deplete his Social Security, right? It is just their own Social Security that they're getting, just the fact that they married him and they did not remarry. So, go ahead.
Quick addendum to that. File and suspend.
Yeah.
You can file on behalf of a spouse, suspend yours, and they can collect while you wait. Social Security office, if you go in there tomorrow or Monday and mention this to them, they will run away in fear because they don't know what that means.
I'm going to change that.
Well, yes, it's contingent upon certain things, but you still can do it. Again, your personal situation, right? But it's something that you should know about.
Yeah.
And that's what I always tell people sometimes, right? They go into a bank and ask them, do you have compound interest savings accounts? Make them work for you, as opposed to giving me a single interest account. I can't get rich like that. Right? What's that? File and suspend. Ask them about that.
Yeah, I'm ready on the title. A couple of years ago, those options were done away with.
They got rid of it?
Yes.
They got rid of it.
Yes, they did.
Really?
Yes, they
Wow.
did. Yeah.
2 years ago, thank you.
2 years ago, yes, there was a lot.
But I thought it was. It's not income based.
No.
Really? Wow, that's
People were
terrible.
benefiting from it too much. Yeah.
And again, it goes back to them trying to find ways to ensure that there is a fund for everyone.
Wow.
That was a compromise.
Yeah.
That-
Because that used to be a big strategy for me. I used to use that with a lot of my clients. It was file and suspend. You could file, collect, and then suspend later if your benefit was higher than your salary. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's gone.
Wow.
So,
that's amazing.
go ahead. You have a question? Go ahead.
I just wanted to recap this. So, it said married, divorced, and I play my former husband can take Social Security for me, or claim if you're married or dead. Is that what you're saying?
No, a lot of those benefits have been done away with.
Yeah.
So again, everybody's situation is different, but generally speaking, the option to do those types of things that Tyrone just alluded to, 2 years ago, the United States government said,
Wow.
Yeah.
and again, it goes back to people living longer.
Yep.
The payouts are higher because the government didn't plan for this. The other thing thing I'll say, everybody in this room, Social Security was never intended to take care of us.
Right.
It was a supplement to. It was a supplement to pension plans. It was a supplement to the fact that most people died 10 to 12 years after they retired. Now you got people living 30, 20, 40 years into retirement. So that's not what it was for. Unfortunately, as a society, we kind of just leaned on it for decades. And now that it's, in danger, everybody's like, oh my God, well, that shouldn't be your only income stream. Okay?
That's the key.
And people get a little tight when I say that, and they're like, what do you mean, Matty Brooks?
I worked for it.
And I said, I'm just keeping it real because it's the truth. I'm not making this stuff up.
And who knows, right? I mean, to the point of Social Security, every year or sometimes they're looking at how to shrink it a little bit more. So your point is well taken that if we're thinking that Social Security, our pension, and whatever else is going to help us when we're in retirement, then we're fooling ourselves.
Yeah. And not everybody has a pension anymore.
No, pensions are
dying.
pretty much done.
They're going away.
So-
Yeah,
Record
they're done.
speed.
Yeah.
So the onus is on us
Yeah,
to make sure that we're preparing for retirement.
yeah.
So I'd like to back,
I was going to say, I forgot, oh, sorry. We were just,
there was some mention of dissolution and what can happen with assets. And I think that I saw the audience kind of pop up. There was some alertness.
Yeah, I saw that.
Nothing set in stone, people pass away, but more often in our society, people divorce. And I think that it's important to talk about being financially sound in the event that your status changes. Because I know from being in a business that women become emotional and men hide their assets. I'm not trying to start a war here. Just saying.
Swiss bank accounts. I did Swiss accounts.
Having shoring themselves up, because I've also seen the other side of the fence where someone's worked really hard to take care of their family and somebody else has just wiped them out because women also sometimes have the tendency to hold grudges. Just saying.
Just saying.
We all live in the same world. So since we're having real talk, we need to have real talk. And there has to be balance on the issue.
That my father has no clue that it exists. No clue, right? Yeah, no, you should clap, right? And I didn't know that until I got older. My mom said to me, let me tell you what I do. I have an account. Your father has no clue where the account is and does not know that I have this account, but made sure that my sister and my brother and I knew that she had the account. And she said, that is intentional because that is my money that I'm building. And then we have our money together. And so I'm saying it to the women in the room. Oftentimes, we spend more time taking care of everyone else and not taking care of ourselves. So I don't care if it's, yes, you can leave, Tyrone. Go ahead.
Stage left.
Yes, I was going to say leave it to Tyrone. But anyway, so you've got to take care of yourself. We know there are a lot of circumstances where you got married, you got divorced, and some of us were not working, but depending on our husband, and then guess what? We are left with nothing. So as of today, my recommendation is to every female in this room, make sure you have an account that is your account that you're putting money in. Every time you get paid, put something towards that, right? So that you can keep and build also your wealth in a way that if you were to get divorced, it's not compromising you.
I would agree with that.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to.
Go ahead, make your
We'll
point.
get into the debate.
No.
I want the panelists to finish.
No, go ahead.
So,
Okay.
You didn't start it.
No, that's okay.
Let's flip it,
Okay, flip it.
okay? Now, we got to provide everything in the household. Provide for the store, where we live in the roof, bills and everything. And again, divorce happens, okay? Guys, we have to protect ourselves, okay? And I don't know if it's in New Jersey, but Maryland, you come with in marriage, you leave without. Okay, in other words, if lessons learned, and I have learned lessons, okay? And I agree with the Bible saying, okay? I thought I go for advice, you know, because I want to protect my asset and my little one, okay? Because, you know, if anything happens to me, I want to make sure she's taken care of, okay? If anything happens to my mom, I want to make sure my dad's taken care of, and vice versa, my mom's taken care of, okay? So, thank you, thank you for the advice.
Yeah. You want to?
I will tell you.
You want to rebut that?
No, I'm not going to rebut it. That's my mom's position. And I'll tell you right now, I have the same thing. I'm very clear about that. I have the same thing. I have an account which I put money, let me hold on, can I finish? Let me just finish. I have an account, I put money in there every single time I get paid. Does my husband know that the account is there? No. Will my husband know that the account is there when I pass away? He will, because his name is on the account as a beneficiary if I pass away. But as long as I am still here, that account is mine.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I agree with you, so I don't say anything as a Christian woman that is a little bit out of order.
That's fine.
But it's kind of a conversation, that's why I'm saying single people, it's very important, that's why you be careful and before you marry. Let's make sure you're married so that people get you, so that when you come into the marriage, you can do all this financial stuff together. Because doing the settlement, that is, for biblically, is out of order. So that's why it's important to make sure that before you get married, you have to have these conversations so you know where someone stands before you only get together. Because when you get together and you're one united thing, you should be doing all of this together. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I think you should bring your specific, but I just would be best if I just say that way is a little bit out of order. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I got some celestial comment. We can break out right now.
I'm on second marriage, and I will say this, when I got married the first time, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had an account. We had names for these accounts, okay? I believe as a Christian woman that disclosure in your marriage is important. However, my account was not secret. It just wasn't accessible. And because I stayed at home and I did many things that we would have had to pay someone to do, I was paid. So I took my money and I did what I wanted to do. I don't think that there's anything wrong with a woman having her own. You do not need to always go and ask your husband for permission. I think how you handle your business is how you handle your business. But if I didn't have something for myself when things hit the fan, it wouldn't have been a good look. And when things go to the left, money begins to become a factor, okay? And money disappears and all kinds of things can happen. And not for nothing, we deal with, from a spiritual perspective, there are generational curses, there are things that you may not know that are spiritual that come up. And there are also mental illnesses and things that can come up. And people can also have addictions, all kinds of things can happen. So you must be wise and prudent. Amen.
Can I just add one component to this before we go through? What I did not share was if there were things to be bought, like a house, my mom came with the money to my dad. So she didn't tell him where it was, she billed it, but it was for us as a family. So it wasn't that she's hiding it and he'll never know. My mom was just much more prudent as it relates to savings than my dad was.
You have a comment, and I want to address the males.
Oh, she said a brief comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Crystal Oliver Gray and Shelley Oliver Hollis's mom.
Oh, look at that.
But I'm one of the seasoned people that you're talking about. And my grandmother, as well as my mom, raised me with little $5
That's right, that's right.
If you need a pair of shoes and your husband couldn't get it for you, or a pocketbook or a hat at the time, hats and gloves for morning church, you could go out and buy it yourself. And I guess divorced people or parents have children that are divorced. With Crystal, a second marriage, my mom, a second marriage, me, a second marriage, my grandmother, a second marriage. And doing that, I'm going to say, as far as salting away a little private account, I was able to collect and pay off with bonds, buying a car when I became divorced, to put a deposit on an apartment when I became divorced. So I'm not going to say that people are not equally yoked, which we know they are, but I am of the mindset, and I raise my children, you know, mother may have, father may have.
That's right.
But God bless the child that has some.
Are you a Delta? Are you a Delta?
Well said.
Oh, I thought you were, okay.
I'd like to just make a comment, and I'm talking about more from an economic, fiscal standpoint, about women in general. Women control over $11 trillion worth of wealth in this country. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. A lot of it is that most small businesses in 2018 are owned by females. Okay? So the reason why I'm a big advocate on women knowing where the money is and how it's getting spent, whether they have a job outside of the home or not, is unfortunately a lot of women don't understand how the finances in the household work.
Yep.
Now remember what I said a couple minutes ago. 11 trillion, I didn't say billion, I said $1 trillion worth of investable assets, look it up, are controlled by females. So my quest and my concern is, if you have all these women running around the U.S. and don't know because the husband was the one that kept the checkbook, or the husband, men die first, typically, sorry, fellas. And the life insurance proceeds were left to the female, and now, you know, I walk in the house and she's like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So from an economic standpoint, I believe that women should first and foremost understand what is held by the entire household, whether she works outside the home or not. Because being a stay-at-home mom, I did it for 5 years, that's some work. That's 24/7. So I'm not, you know, belittling that type of female in any way, shape, or form. And I'm a Christian woman too. I think that when a woman knows she's got a little slush fund,
That's right.
it builds her up. It just makes her feel like she's got some kind of control. Now,
That's fine, but it should be secret.
All right.
whether it is, I'm talking, that's fine.
It's their
You know,
personal
you have
preference.
that's fine. But what it does is it gives me an opportunity to show her how to manage that slush fund. So it's an indirect way of financially educating someone who might be adverse to otherwise. Does that make sense? And again, we have a responsibility, women in this room. We have a responsibility. So,
All right, can we address the other side of that? Sure. Am I allowed to? Okay. So I don't disagree with anything that is said because it was emotionally driven, and that's fine. And a lot of it was personal, and that's also fine. So let's deal with it this way. From a male's perspective, right? And I'm right now I'm speaking to the young men in the room that may, like myself, not be married. So one of my better connections that I use, I have a whole list of attorneys that I use as a divorce attorney. right? And she already told me that her wedding gift to me would be doing my prenup. But one of the things that you have to understand as a couple, and she's dealt with couples on this, you have to know the laws where you live, first thing. Second thing is, as I think was mentioned, know who you're marrying. Know them, right? That's just the truth, because you may tell them that the account is there, but you probably hide in something else. So that's a personal thing, and people have to deal with that on their own. The other thing is, and I can't stand Steve Harvey, but one of the things that he said on his radio show years ago that was true is that you should have your accounts, I should have mine, we should have ours. And again, I should know you have yours, so if you want to go get shoes, ain't got nothing to do with me. If I want to buy a Porsche, mind your business, right? But together, but our assets together is what we're going to pay the lights, we're going to do this for the kids, the soccer games, tuition, this, that, or whatever. That's that, transparency, yes. The other thing is this, going back to that, a prenup is not saying, right, and my mother's all the time, right, you're wishing ill on it. No, that's not what that means. All that simply means is it's not only protecting me as a man, but it's protecting you as a woman, it's protecting us together. In the event of dissolution, right, that we don't go through all of the nonsense that isn't available when there is no prenup. So it's just, you buy insurance for your car, for your house, for your kids, for your life, but not for your marriage. Okay, leave that up to God. That's fine, if that's what you want to do. Totally fine with that. But you should protect that, because you insure everything else, right? I don't buy a new car and say, Lord, insure it, protect me, protect your marriage. With that said, do understand, as you were saying, at least I know in New Jersey to be true, if you get divorced and my mama leave me a house and that house wasn't in our prenup, or if we don't even have a prenup, that house is mine. The minute I put that house into a joint account with you now have part ownership of that. So again, that's another thing. If you want to segregate assets that has been left to you before marriage, and she gave this example on purpose. She had a friend of hers. She was left a house, she sold it, $500,000. She was going through issues, the friend was going through issues with the husband. And she said, well, what'd you do with that money? I put it in the joint account. I don't know how hard she smacked her, but I do know, right? This goes all back to what we were saying. There's steps to, if anything that involves your life financially, you pause and talk to somebody. Right? So one of the things that needs to be understood, no matter where you stand on emotion or where you stand in terms of your religion or whatever else, it goes back to simply saying, and I don't know who said it, but knowing the person that you are marrying, knowing the laws in your state, knowing your financial situation. I had a situation where, similar to that, a young lady I spoke to, she went to this school. She has $270,000 in student loans. Her husband doesn't know. If I marry you, you got 270. Well, first of all, we won't get married. But that's another. But to that point, that's another thing. I told her. I had a consultation with her. I said I cannot move forward because if you don't tell your husband about this, I can't have a conversation with you both and advise you knowing that he doesn't know about this house that you owe, and they just bought a home. So the point is, again, being transparent. Because if you really love me and you know I come with this baggage, that is now your debt too, right? Help me pay it. But again, if you don't sit with the individual and have an honest talk, one, about your current financial situation, and two, even I'm going to be very transparent here, I am like a lion over finances, and I will be with my wife because of what I experienced growing up and seeing my mother and father battle over money. My dad couldn't read and write, still really can't. My mother handled all of the finances, and we struggled. So that's embedded in me personally. I'm never going to get that out, but I'm going to bring that to my relationships, and I'm going to tell my wife, the reason I am this way is not because I want to be domineering, but we got to be fully transparent. We're going to put everything on the table and split it up. And if there's something left over, we'll go to Waffle House. But if not, right? If not, then, it's just not going to work for me. And maybe there's some situations where, transparency works or things being in certain places work. But again, it's knowing and obviously, from hearing Geraldine speak, and you guys know her already, and me knowing her personally, she's not a bad person, or I'm just not. It's not that. If it works for her in her marriage, it's totally different than what worked for me and mine. My wife can't keep nothing. I'm looking after everything. I'm visiting all the islands looking for a couch. The last name Ross. Ibiza, I'm going everywhere. Sri Lanka. But anyway, so anyway, long story short, I just think you should know who you're dealing with, and I think also knowing the laws of where you are in the event of dissolution, that you're protecting yourself to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Or comments?
Just understand that money is usually the reason why people get divorced, right? Think about it. Yeah, and you're right. That's number one. So again, to Tyrone's point, you gotta know who you marry for sure. I mean, that's where it starts. And the other thing is, it goes back to behavior. It goes back to the way you feel about money, right? So we need to address those types of things first. Before we start talking about, who should have an account where, all this other stuff, so.
Just say that money is the root of all evil.
It's not. It is not.
Yes,
It's not.
Now, I'm going to just say this, and I applaud all the women in the room who have stepped up, because I've seen many instances where men have left them and left them with nothing. And they're not paying child support or anything. And they've hid their money, and they've done all sorts of things. And it comes down to knowing who you marry, and I have my own personal account. I encourage my wife to get her personal account. And the thing is, with finances, I worked in finances for years too. I worked for Merrill Lynch for years in Wells Fargo, and I've seen people come to the bank, whoever gets to the bank first, all right? They got to do an account, right?
Yeah.
They're clearing that account out.
Yep.
I've seen that done too many times.
Yep.
And so I applaud you that you have your own. I mean, because if you don't have your own, you're going to be stuck. And you got to live, or you got to move in with somebody because you don't have your own, right? So it's important that you be independent, okay? And I'm a God-fearing, believing man, but you have to have your own, because if you don't, the consequences can be far worse. When she died, they found all sorts of money, right? And her problem she wasn't hiding money, because her husband made all the money, had a good job. He was the director of food services at Rutgers University. And her thing was, she was poor. And she didn't want to be poor anymore. And she knew that, her husband, right, spent a lot of money, okay? But he spent money, he was able to maintain his finances. But the key thing was, when she passed, they found that she had a lot of money. And that's because she just never wanted to be poor. So.
This young lady has a question. She's been here for a while.
From the back, yeah.
Someone passed.
After this question, I believe we're going to have to wrap up. Oh, we don't have to wrap up. All right.
Still like we don't have to wrap up.
Okay, on this thing of knowing who you're married, I don't think you'll ever know people, because people move into different environments and they change sometimes with those environments. Either it's a new job or everything's like, I agree with a few things. I must say, Tyler, thank you. The battle I had with my son last year to come to see me on university.
Oh, wow. That was you? Wow. Nice to meet you. That's awesome.
I didn't come here, but I paid money here, so I show up.
Right. I hear that.
But I just want to say thank you. But the whole thing of people saying, know who you marry. I don't think I'll ever know anyone. I'm adopted. I've gone through different houses living and everything. People change. I agree with so many parts of it, and I just want to thank you for your time to take out.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's awesome.
Here's a question. the last person that talks about that as far as knowing who you're marrying. People grow, people change, but there's certain things like habits, character, integrity. You can tell if someone is responsible. And so I understand having that money set aside that the husband doesn't know about because maybe he's not misdoing with money.
No, so what? Let me be very clear. So right now, we're looking at buying another house. I know that I'm going to be the one that's going to put more money down to buy that house. So if the account was both of us in there and he's like, hey, I'm going to go in because I need to get some money out, I'm very specific. This is an account that if we're going to do stuff, he knows that I will be responsible and say, here's the check, go ahead and do it, but I'm not putting your name on the account.
Right. So it's just that sometimes maybe in a situation where it's like you realize that it's like, okay, I know this person is this way, so this is what I'm going to have to do to ensure that you'll be okay, I'll be okay, the kids will be okay, whatever the case is. As far as like, I do believe transparency is extremely important also. I too am a Christian. I believe that, being open and being able to be honest about your finances, where you are. The debt shouldn't be a problem. Like as far as like, okay, is that really going to be the deal breaker? Like you fall in love and it's like, oh my gosh, she has debt. Really, but having a plan as far as like how you're going to invest that's important.
Wasn't a deal breaker for my dad.
I think having the one account or a few accounts where you cover shared expenses and you both contribute and you agree, this is our shared account because we both live in this house, we both
There's a shared account, but there's a separate one.
and these are the shared expenses. But I also believe that there's a sense of empowerment for just women when you have your own. Like I grew up, my family is largely matriarchal. So I've never even experienced being really taken care of by men. So I knew from a very young age that I was going to have to secure myself. And now that I see my mom as a single mother and seeing the hardships because she doesn't have that support, financial and otherwise, I'm like, okay, I'm really going to have to secure myself. But there's a sense of empowerment to be able to go and buy yourself a bag because you're working, you're earning it, whatever, and you're not taking from even though the money is shared, you're not taking it from something else. Just even when you learn to take care of your finances, you should have multiple accounts. You should have another account for your bags, your shopping, your fun, your travels and whatnot. You should have an account that takes care of your the things you need, your car insurance, things like that. You should have your account for your long term. You should already have those accounts split up. And I think that, once you get married and you decide, you designate accounts for certain things. So I think having your own is also really good. And also, I think about it this way, say for a birthday. If I was to send his birthday and I buy you a gift, but it's from your money, that, I'm like, okay, you use my money to buy me a gift, or you use our money to buy me a gift. I feel like it feels better to and I'll say, okay, I saw what you needed, so I wanted to go and get you a watch because I knew you were going to buy it for yourself, or whatever it is. So, I agree with a lot of what was said, but yeah, as far as being married.
Are there any questions? Answer the question.
Okay, so wait, I have a question, and my question is, we talked about, I think you've heard a lot about psychology of money and fear of money. This is the way this is gone. So my question is about philanthropy and giving. So let's talk about that. And I want to talk about the Black Alumni Association's scholarship fund and how excited I am.
I knew it was going to be there somehow.
And I'm saying this with love, but also I need us to begin to think. People are very quick to contact the Black Black Alumni Association and ask about scholarship. Is there money? Why? Because some of us have children that are going to college, but you are not putting in work and you're not offering any money. So if we don't put in money, there won't be no money.
Yep.
Okay? So can you speak about our culture and giving and philanthropy and how we can change our mindset?
My comments going to be very brief, and then I'll let Tyrone and Jerry address the Alumni Association. The glaring difference that I see between us and other folk are they take care of their
Absolutely.
universities,
That's
their
right.
churches, through designating specific life insurance classes to leave a legacy for their institutions. It's part of their value system, it's part of their culture. And whenever I bring that up to someone who says, oh, I want to leave money for my college, I want to leave this, and I use that as an example, I always said this. And I'll say to you, just like I say then, yes, you should contribute to your alumni association. You should contribute your time and your money to your people. But if you want to leave a large sum of money to an institution like other folks do, and you want to help ensure a legacy, think about the most cost-effective way of doing it, and that's through life insurance. And then I'll stop.
So I donate actually to Seton Hall, even though sometimes the experience wasn't the best. And I think if you think about Seton Hall as a whole, as a community, we probably did not donate because the experience that we had on campus was not favorable to us, right? For those that were here at the time that I was here, when they put nigger on the wall in your room, on the door, and you say to yourself, well, why would I give back to that university? That's the experience that I encountered, right? Recently, I actually changed my mind. I did give to Seton Hall because although I encountered that experience, I still walked away from a university with a degree and with an opportunity to get a really great opportunity to work outside of that, right? So I think your point is in terms of giving, I think culturally for us, it's probably something we don't do often. And it could be for multiple reasons, and I'm not going to go into depth as to what those reasons are. But what I do see is our other counterparts do give. And the mere fact that they have an opportunity to give, if their kids wanted to come to Seton Hall, guess what? It opens the door for them, right? And so I now began to give, not only to Seton Hall, but also to nonprofit organizations that I believe in, right? So I give to Habitat for Humanity. I'm on the board of Habitat, so I give money to that. I think that being able to give money to organizations who are in need, specifically for families and kids, is something that I really enjoy doing. So I think it's something that we should think about, and even for the Black alumni, creating our own structure where we can give back to students who may not have enough to come here to Seton Hall, but we can help them. So I'm big on giving.
So when you give, whose account does it come out of?
It comes out from both of our accounts. No,
While we
actually,
don't give, we argue and trying to figure out what account.
no, not at all, not at all.
Just-
My husband was here, he would tell
I'm
her,
kidding.
he would say, I probably know where the account is, but he just doesn't touch it, so, yeah. Huh?
That's-
It is a
yes.
tax deduction. It is a tax deduction, absolutely.
Oh, I don't get the answer? Okay.
No.
It's cool. No, it's fine. It's fine. No,
wanted to lose his
take the
thought.
question. That's probably more important.
Good morning.
Good morning.
1968.
Wow.
Alan, my friend, graduated in '69.
All right.
He doesn't look-
There were 4 black students in my graduating class, over 1,300 graduates. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I understand that there are challenges that students of color face on campus and will probably continue to face on campus if you look at the national statistics. And Seton Hall is probably a microcosm of that national database. But every time you think of a reason why you should not contribute back, I'm going to give you my number. I will give you 5 reasons why you should.
Yeah.
I set up most of these programs. EOP, Martin Luther King Scholarship was born out of EOP. Black Studies was born out of EOP. Puerto Rican Institute was born out of EOP. Pre-legal, I wrote the proposal for 38 years ago. Pre-med, pre-debt, one of my staff members wrote the proposal. I got the funding for it, so I dare say I was involved in every single entity that affects Black people most at Seton Hall. Seton Hall was good to me and for me.
That's right. That's right. Yep. That's it.
But for the support that I received from the president and the administration of Seton Hall, these programs would not have existed. So where would most of the Black students be if that were not the case?
That's right.
We need to support Crystal,
Yeah.
Kimberly, Michelle, and the other leaders of this.
That's right. Absolutely.
And we need to change our mindset
Yep.
about contributing. Where in the world can you go and find a perfect institution? You put money in your church
That's right.
basket on Sundays.
Exactly. That's right.
Is it perfect?
No.
If it is perfect, put the gospel after you leave out. So let's change our mindset and let's begin to support the things that are important to us.
That's right. Well said.
Focus on Black Pride. WSOU. Friday night. If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be no me.
That's right.
It really wouldn't be no me. Okay? I've been able to come to Seton Hall University as I was on my way to Tuskegee Institute. Okay? I was actually going to Tuskegee, and then a young man by the name of Monty Brooks called my father and said, I know where Bobby can go, and he don't have to go to Alabama with Gary Station at Maxwell Air Force Base. I always had aspirations about being on WSOU because my mother was into music. She worked at RCA Records. Alfred Davis, who's now a chiropractor in Montclair, graduated from Seton Hall. He was on WSOU. I wanted to be there. I got to Seton Hall. I decided to be an education major. Okay, I was a student teacher my freshman first semester down here at Lincoln School on Richelieu. And then I saw what was going on in the communication department. I switched majors because I realized how to be a teacher without being a teacher. Okay, but with getting into WSOU, it would take me to another place. And sure enough, people took me Mike Turner, Jimmy Walker, George C. Wilson, Richard Bay. They showed me what brotherhood was all about here at Seton Hall. I won't even talk about the Black Students Union. That's a whole nother story. But I just want to say that you should do it. Don't think for a minute that Seton Hall, and even when I'm thinking about Tuskegee as opposed to coming to Seton Hall, the difference is when I came to Seton Hall, I had to learn how to deal with all types of people.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Where, you know, when I think about Tuskegee, even though we were going to be there with African Americans and this, that, and the other, imagine being there with a bunch of African Americans where here I was here with a small group, but the way they acted with apathy and stuff, I didn't need to be over there with a larger group of people like that. It's about this, and it's about you people that are here, right now. As I will never forget, as long as I'm out on the road, I will be here. Okay? And I will make sure that if there's any communication majors, and I know there's one in here who I met 2 years ago, that I have really been trying to help get there. So again, I applaud you because that thing you told us up in that can, take a look to your right and take a look to your left. I will never ever forget it. God bless you, sir. Thank you.
And the people of why you should give, and I think those are two passionate stories. I can't add anything more to that, but what I will say is this, and this is when it changed for me. And I'll tell you a personal story, a very powerful story, when philanthropy jumped out at me as something that needs to happen. Take yourself back to the way you felt when President Obama was elected. I met a very good friend of mine that I met recently, was his largest fundraiser of color. And I could prove it because if you go to his Twitter page, if you know anything about when people meet with the president, people who sit to his right are very prominent. His avatar in his Twitter picture, he's sitting next to the president on his right. That was his reward for raising money for President Obama. He was on the ground, right, and was his largest fundraiser. So I say that to say, when he told me that story and everything that came out of it, and what it means for change, and how I was fortunate enough to go to the DNC with him in 2016 and to watch him cry, right, and to see how passionate he was to telling people to give and what it meant for him and sharing his story. I think it resonates down to this, right? We have to give to the causes of where we want to see change, right? And that's just the truth of it, and we don't. So I think if we want to see change, if we want new dorms, if we want scholarships, if we want, I was here, I never knew it was a Black Student Union here. I didn't know it was nothing black at Seton Hall, to be honest. I didn't. I'll be completely honest. I didn't know. I graduated in 2002. I had no idea. 2002? I had no idea. Wow. Yeah.
You said 2002?
2000, I had no idea. Right? So I had no idea it was anything like that here. But again, it was, so my point is saying all that, and I just think just to tie it up, is I think for us as a people, and as we start to move forward, and I want to tie this in with something I didn't get to say earlier, and that you said, addressing the young men in the room and tying it in with this point. I was the first one in my family to finish high school, let alone go to college. As a people, we are about to walk into an abundance that our forefathers had no idea that we are about to walk into. Black women are the most highly educated class in this country, demonstrated by what Maddie said. My point is this, to the young men, we are getting left behind in terms of women graduate twice the rate of us, they get twice the amount of degrees, they make way more money, but let's be very clear, a couple stats. I'm not a big quant guy, but here's the facts. 5% of black people in this country gross more than $112,000 a year. 5% gross more than $112,000. That's Federal Bureau of Statistics. Less than 5% of people of color are worth $350,000 or more. Now, big picture, that is going to change because, again, a lot of us are getting degrees and we're moving forward. So to the young men in the room, I empower you to become entrepreneurs, to get highly educated, to increase your skill set, to match with the women that you are going to encounter in life. So then you both can sit down at the table and say, no matter whose account it's coming from, that we're going to go back to the place where we were educated or where we met, and I'm going to donate $50,000 to my university and you to yours, and to our local officials, and to the school, and to everywhere where we want to see change and empowered us along the way. And I think that has to happen, and it will happen. But I think what we don't, and I also think that there was a little chasm here too, in between generations, right? So if you are 35 and younger, right, our world is looking different than it was at our parents and the people who raised them. So now that we have the tools and resources that my parents didn't have, I can empower my niece now, and so on and so forth. So if she sees me in the computer room here when I was in graduate school and she was a baby and she understood what college meant and what it meant to go to college, and what that meant for the legacy of our family. And she's the second one to go to college. And now I'm saying, okay, well, wherever you went, you were there, you have to give back, because they gave to you, right? And one quick story, then I'm done. I was only fortunate enough to go to the school because I had a talent to run. When they cut the track team, I was done with Seton Hall, completely done, right? Until recently. The last time, I want to say it was a couple months ago, was when I actually stepped foot back on this campus since I got that news. And I'm going to tell this story. I never forget it. I was working on Wall Street. I was coming home, and I got the news that they cut the program. And everybody was calling me, because like, you the Wall Street guy, find the money, right? And I remember I called Coach Moon, who's getting honored tonight, and I called him. I said, what do we need to do? What do we need to raise to at least get them to keep the team another year? And he told me this, and I'll never forget it, and I always tell the story. He said, they won't even hear us because they don't have anyone or any indication that anyone has given back from the track team for as long as I've been here. So we are knocking on the door that they are not going to open. And I said, well, at least let's find out the amount. I think it was 1.3 million or 1.5 million, something like that, to keep it going another year. And we couldn't even come together to raise the money, right? So with that said, I just think, again, that was something that I'm passionate about, something that we feel. So I just think the things that are near and dear to you, and I think the gentleman in the back said it, that emotional tie, things that get you emotional, that should lead your giving, right? And that's where you should pour into what poured into you.
Yes, he has a question.
Okay, so
He has a
I
question.
need to speak to that. So when we look at the Black Alumni Association and the executive leadership team, when you see this weekend, this is on the strength of really like 4 women that are humping, grinding. Kimberly Singletary owns a company, Conceptual Geniuses. I can't tell you how much in-kind service her company, the team, has contributed to this happening. There's this concept that we're here. We are financing a lot of this out of our personal accounts. We pay to be at the weekend just like everybody else. We support and give our money like everybody else, and our time, our talent, and we beg. We are begging alumni to just show up, help out, volunteer, not to mention giving money. That scholarship that was established, we had to have someone personally put their name on the line to minimally raise $5,000 a year, minimally, for us to have anything. For us to be here and to partner with alumni relations, to have the university acknowledge us, to become a club, this is work. And we need everybody to understand and to contribute. The President Meehan has this Get to 10 initiative that's going on right now. We need our 10 to go to the Black Alumni Club Association Scholarship. So we really just need everybody to start thinking about giving and understanding that they will not talk to you, they will not hear you because you don't exist if your money is not coming in. And it doesn't have to be big, it just has to be numbers. If 100 people give $1, 100 of us give $1, we have their attention. We exist, we're on the radar. And you know what? The sad thing is that you'll go to a game, you'll rock $50 sweatshirts and t-shirts from the bookstore. Come on, y'all. Talk to your people that you're connected to on social media. After this, I need to see everybody that you know putting in at least $5 so that they can see that we are powerful and we're strong and we matter. We are united, strong.
You had a question.
5 minutes to wrap up.
You had a question.
5 minutes? You can't have the 5. Hi, family and friends. Father Day. I have mixed feelings talking about giving the campaign to Seton Hall. And those that know me know I've been very vocal as to why I have not given to Seton Hall. My husband and I are philanthropists, and we donate to colleges, certainly, he sits on a college board. But I really had been torn, and I say had been in the sense of in the past, whether or not to give back to an institution that I felt had not given me anything. When I left Seton Hall 30 years ago, this is actually the first time that I've been back on this campus. And I left bitter. I left broken. I left feeling that the institution that I came to help me prepare me for the world had done little of nothing to do that. And I had some issues. But as I sit here and I thought about it, and I'm speaking to Crystal with regards to what it is that we're supposed to do as alumni. And I am an alumni of Seton Hall University. And I think that it is important that each of us give back. Whether our experience, as you stated, good or bad, we have students that are coming here that need to hear from us in a tangible way, financially, but they also need to hear from us just to communicate with us, to talk about their experiences, our experiences, and how we can move forward together. And so after today and this weekend, I'm on board with the scholarship, but I also still need some resolution for me with regards to Seton Hall.
I'm just going to jump in for 1 second. Kudos to you. I think that's wonderful. I think if the focus is not on the institution and on the people who are coming behind you, I think that'll help you resolve your issue.
That's right.
If you shift the focus from forgetting the institution. We're doing this for the young men and women in the room. Does that make sense?
So I think that that's a great point. The only other thing I would add, Crystal, is as alums, make us accountable to each have a mentor, right? And that it's not only about giving money, but it's also being able to speak to the students and help them go through some of the things that we may have gone through while we were at Seton Hall.
Yeah. I said that, and
Okay.
we are aware of that, but here's what I need you to understand. There are 4 of us strong. We can't do it. Like alumni, we've got these powerful alumni. You talked about your top 3, and then we threw an attorney in the midst of what we need to be successful. We have people who are CPAs. We have people who are accountants. Where are they? We need a directory. We cannot do it alone. Our team is united strong. You have to show up. And when you show up, don't show up looking for a handout, expecting us to pay you for your time and your services. It's in kind. It's giving back. We stand on the shoulders of Mr. Campbell, Mr.
That's right.
Tillman,
That's right.
all these people that helped us to get where we are. I don't have a great experience either. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
It's bigger than me.
So count me in. Count me in, put me in, I'm in. And so everybody in this room who's willing to commit, regardless of what experience you have, raise your hand. Everybody will give the name to Crystal, you're committed, and we'll hold you accountable to it. There you go. There you go.
That being said, it's 1 minute before we have to get to the barbecue, but we have Dr. Bridget, who will have a form. We need the names of any deceased alumni, whatever information you have. It might be their name, their address, their telephone number.
A deceased person, you can't get a name or a telephone number. We just need the name. We are doing a prodigy, calling out the names of those alumni who are no longer with us. Physically, in spirit. So this time is gonna come around, just put the name on it out there. Yeah, this is for tomorrow.
So before we close out, can we have all of your individuals that took the time to do this for us to applaud them? So come on. Stand up, you guys deserve it.
We also want to applaud our esteemed panel. Thank you for your time and your talent and all
Want me to start?
Well, you go ahead. You guys, because you guys are the financial advisors. I'm manager, so. But I'll still say how they can contact me. Don't listen. Tyrone and I know each other very well.
I will let the
Unfortunately.
ladies go first. I'll finish
Well,
it.
I'm a manager too, by the way.
Yeah.
What I would say to this is
Throw
that
manager around.
a lot of people don't consider a career in financial services because they think you have to have a degree in finance or in business, and those things help. But more importantly, being a financial advisor has a lot to do with, are you a good listener? You know, do you have empathy for people? Do you like to be around people? Okay? Yes, like I said, having a good background in finance is helpful, but there's not enough African American advisors in this country.
There isn't.
It's an epidemic, and it's really a problem because what's happening is the available advisors outside of people like Tyrone, who, God bless him, you know, is helping as many people as he can. The amount of influx for African Americans that need our help, there's not people who look like us. There's not people who sound like us. So if you know someone who has an interest in giving back and wants to help people with their finances, please come and see me when we're done. Please, okay? That would be very helpful. And as far as next steps are concerned, the only thing I would say is that if you haven't taken the time to develop a budget, whether you do it with an online app or just writing it on paper, the old-fashioned way to find out where your money is going, that absolutely should be your first step.
Very well said. So mine is going to focus a little bit on what we spoke to towards the end of the session, was really the students. And as I sit here, I said, yes, I'm a manager. So one of the things that, Crystal, I will commit to is having a student from Seton Hall every year come and spend time in our office as an intern.
You up here flossing a lot. You up here flossing a lot. I like it. I like it. You doing your thing. I like it. That's nice. I ain't get the invite, but all right.
No, you're past that, Tyrone. You're way past that. But to literally sum it up, I think part of all of us are going to walk away with our own ideas of how we build wealth. The one thing that I really want you guys to consider is that you're worth it. And that if you look at money in a positive way, that money will continue to grow. And so we need to remove all of those ideals or negative ideals we had as a relationship to money and make the relationship with money as strong as your relationship with your spouse. Okay?
Okay. So I will end on this note. One of the things that I think is very important for everyone to consider when you leave, and as you walk throughout life, and no matter where you sit with your personal finances and your experiences, whatever the case may be, and I think we've all done this a lot. We've all had the opportunity to be blessed to sit in front of people to pontificate about our experiences and what we can teach you and what you should do and whatever else. There's something that I call the Tony Robbins effect, right? People, they walk on hot coal and Tony Robbins is jumping around, and then you leave and you like, I'm gonna stop smoking tomorrow, I'm gonna save $1 million, I'm gonna start my own company, and then Monday comes and you like, man, my car don't start, right? The Tony Robbins effect, I don't want to happen with you guys here, so this is my point. One of the things that I say this every single time I get this opportunity, we are touchable. You do not need $1 million to sit with a financial advisor. You don't need $250,000 to meet with an advisor. You need to get over yourself and just be open enough to say, I need help. Can you help me? And I'm certain that if I can't help you, I know somebody who can.
That's right.
So I think one of the things that I always leave it on this note, I will put all of my contact information everywhere. Whether you choose to reach out or not is on you. But and I don't always share the contact information, but I'm all on social media. You know, if you just Google my name, all of my social media is there, my LinkedIn is there. Feel free to reach out. I don't have any problem sitting or talking with anyone and helping you and meeting you where you are. And I think that's one of the things that happens when we do these things a lot is people walk away and they're like, well, you know, can I use a financial advisor or do I need you don't need anything. You just need a desire to want to get better financially and we'll help.
So Crystal, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know Professor Pritchett has something to say, but I will just, to piggyback on what you're saying, we need to make sure that we don't wait until we think we have money. We need to make appointments to have one-on-ones with these financial experts here, so that they can take a look. Program, Maddie is amazing. I'm sure Tyrone is also. You don't need to know where you want to go or what you want to do. Just have them take a look. You don't need to have a lot of money. Let them help you work with what you have.
Okay, the other thing that I want to say is next year we will be doing a conference and hopefully this esteemed panel will come back. But we need a Black Alumni Association financial team. And we are also going to be trying to put together a board because now that we have this fellowship, we have to become more organized.
Yeah.
So that board needs, we need people with a whole skills matrix that represents every aspect so that we can have their representation and we can operate the way that we need to operate. We have someone who wants to make a comment, then we're gonna make everybody wrap up.
Hi there, I'm not an alumnus NYU person. However, I just want to tell everyone who's here, especially our panel and our moderator, it has been a delight to watch you. It is wonderful. I'm going to tell you that the ancestors are looking down. It is worth every whip of the lash.
That's all.
Everyone, you are making them so proud. It's just wonderful. Back and forth, and the intelligence and your articulation and the sharing. It's just, I just have to say, what a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gotta end on that. End on that.
I want to thank my sister, Shelly, for being a great moderator.
I don't want payment, but I will say that I will, give a donation. I think that, you know, we give to various organizations where you can, set something up, where you can have something come out monthly. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Something like that going on, okay?
Yeah.
And I'll commit to
Then it
helping
becomes-
your team. I don't want to be on the team.
So, Crystal, I'm going to give my first check because if I don't walk out of here with it, if I don't walk out of
You
here.
was giving something out that bag. I know that much.
What'd you say?
So you was giving something out that bag. Do we know who made the collard greens yet for the barbecue?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Just-
Thank you, perfect. I need to see that. Yeah, I can't see.
Contact information.
Okay. So,
All right, so right before we break.
So they got to tell me who am I making it to say.
If you would like to schedule a meeting to talk about your finances, one of my team members, Camille Marks, he has some cards where we can get your information and then call so that we can have a complimentary chat about your finances. So I will that to you on 911 Sleeping Hall, but I can call you my time.
We have a lot of these comments. Just as an example of, when I arrived here in 1978, I was a member of the faculty administration. And actually, when I was telling a narrative about my first 15 years here, the Black faculty and administrators we had here, we spent an awful lot of time trying to convince Black students to even stay at Seton Hall. Sorry. But the idea
I think so. I think you put yourself right in.
Defy all the odds, they can go your way. But my reason for standing was to say, in the spirit of what a lot of me said, which was, a lot of people that they with a bitter memory of Seton Hall. The current undergraduates will remember me saying things like this to them. Back in the day, whenever I met any alums who had graduated from Seton Hall before the year 2000, that's going from 1970 to 2000. The first thing they would ask me is, do black students still have a march on campus for dignity? That's how rough it was. But all I wanted to say to everybody right now is please get engaged with the strongest thing you can do, no matter what your experience was, and because maybe you had a negative experience. Get involved with our students today. Be engaged with them. The reason is, in today's America, actually, you think it was rough when we came through here? In today's world, because of the challenges coming in the atmosphere about identity, many of our young people are peeling away, they're hiding from the identity issues. They don't want to be identified with things which are cultural. So actually, this is the time for the Black Student, Black Alumni Association to raise up your loins. Two things. We discussed this 2 years ago when Bridget was talking about this. And somebody said, 100 people give me $100. What that was all about, we want to get 100. Ultimately, we want to be able to say that if there are 2,500 Black alumni from this institution, we have gotten 100% participation. You follow that? That gives us all clout when we want to talk to the boards and the heads, number one. 100%, our goal is going to be ultimately 100% of Black alumni have made a financial contribution to Seton Hall. Number two, we really need all of you to get in behind the new programming that will come out of this organization that will engage you with our students throughout the year. They need to hear your stories, they need to network with you. Aaron has his check.
Probably. That understanding of it, I think, I don't know. I think it makes sense. Yeah, okay. There we go.
What we like to do at this moment is to speak a blessing over our children that are here. Come on over here, guys, right over here. You know, if you open your Bible to the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 23, 24, what it was is that Moses was given a commandment by God, and he told Aaron what to say to speak a blessing over his people. And I speak this blessing over all of our folks every day at my church in Texas. So when y'all in Texas, come visit me. I'll give you the address later, but I want to speak a blessing over the kids. And what this blessing does is speaks over their entire life from the very beginning as they live their entire life. And then they get the right to speak the blessing over their children. And it's found in the book of Numbers, chapter 6. You guys want to hold hands for me? And put them in here like we're doing a high five. Come on, right here, guys. Come closer. I'm not going to bite you. Come on. All right. We're going to hold hands, all right? If you'll join me, all I need you to do is just agree. It's biblical. I'm not making it up. I'm not adding or taking away from the Word of God. Amen? Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord watch guard over you, and that He would be gracious, that the Lord would be kind, and that He would be merciful unto you. May the Lord make his approving countenance to shine upon you, that the very presence of God shall rest upon you your entire lives. That the very peace of God, not just peace, but the kind of peace that removes chaos and confusion from your lives. And the very presence of God shall be upon you all of your days. If you agree with that, say amen. Amen. Come on, say it again, amen. Amen. One more time, amen. Amen. God bless you. Thank you, guys.